Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters, celebrating 20 years. I can't believe it. It just seems like yesterday. Thank you so much for all of your support all these years. We still have some of the same listeners from 20 years ago. It's just hard to believe. You can find us on television. We're syndicated on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. All social media sites there as well, including Facebook, Twitter, now known as X, and if it's social media, we're doing it. So you can watch anytime you want to. And the show basically airs 1 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday, but don't want you to get into trouble at work, okay? So if the boss says, no, I don't want you watching Donna Fiesel on Donna's Edge, you can watch it later. So going ahead and tag up some of those things. The quickest way is probably Facebook, facebook.com/D Fiesel. I haven't been taken off the Facebook in a really long time. Maybe I've softened up a little bit or something. Either I've softened or they softened. So one of the two of us has. I don't think it's me because I'm still saying the same stuff. Oh, and continue sending emails. Donna@donnasedge.com. You're not bothering me at all when you send emails. I love it. It makes my day. Donna@donnasedge.com. And I always send emails to these guys right here, Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey. And you guys have. Of course, a lot of them are still pertaining to the prebate, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey are with me right now. They are with Alabama Fair Tax. And I'm just going to have to tell you, Don Brown is running for U.S. Senate in North Carolina, and they need him there. But I'm going to tell you another reason they need him. He's on fire for fair tax.
Yep. Yeah, I've contacted Laura McHugh up there, and she's going to look him up. Oh, you never sent me the telephone number though. I don't know.
Oh, he hasn't sent it to me yet. So I got to hit on him a little bit. And we'll see.
She's ready to go get him a call and everything. Just need his telephone number.
That sounds good because Don is a business owner. Okay, so he's an attorney and he's an author and he's a speaker, and he's had enough of Uncle Sam on his tax. As a matter of fact, they need him in North Carolina, U.S. Senate. Their taxes are ungodly. Yeah. Their house taxes, everything. They need fair tax.
They were supposed to be reducing that income tax over the years, and we were talking to somebody and they said, "Oh, we need to do in Alabama. We need to reduce our taxes like they're doing in North Carolina." And I said, "What are they doing?"
They're going up. As a matter of fact, it's almost like this big exodus. There are people from North Carolina moving into South Carolina because our taxes here are just a fraction of what they are in North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, it's you can see movement all over the U.S. Even Kentucky's talking about reducing their taxes. Mississippi they said, "Oh, we got rid of the income tax," but hey, wait a minute, it really doesn't happen until 2530 or something like that. Meaning that
2030.
Yeah, 2030 because it's a pittance a year trickling down because they're scared they're going to lose some money. So. If they just do the fair tax, they wouldn't have to do that. They could switch over this year and start collecting the Mississippi fair tax next year, and they'd be in good stead.
Well, what would happen if let's say Mississippi decided to do it, and so they go fair tax? What would be the advantage of Mississippi being the very first state to do it?
The advantage would be that they would get all the perks of getting rid of the income tax, and going to a fair tax would mean that they would untax everybody in that state that's a resident up to the prebate level, just like we do for the national fair tax. As a matter of fact, our bill says get rid of the current sales tax and also the income tax and replace it with a 6.5% sales tax, a consumption tax only on new goods and services that you buy for personal use. And oh, by the way, sales tax is progressive, so we're going to untax everybody up to the poverty level for their family size. So we're not worried about how much your income is. We're just worried about you having enough money to spend on your family. So the prebate is based on HHS values each year for what you need to actually live as a person. And so the fair tax just is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win as the wheel rolls,
Mm-hmm.
And until one of us gets it done, it's going to be a hard sell because everybody's just scared to death of changing from that wonderful income tax system to the fair tax.
You asked for the advantage for Mississippi, and that would be that first of all, it eliminates the corporate tax. Mm-hmm. It's collected in the sales in the consumption tax, so they would bring all kinds of industry there. Because first of all, the land in Mississippi is probably cheaper than it is in a lot of states. If you look at Tennessee, Tennessee draws people like mad. People who in the know. Art Laffer. I was listening to Catherine Austin Fitz on the podcast, and she lives in Tennessee. It's a draw, and with President Trump giving the gold card to industry, mm-hmm. those industries could go to Mississippi. There's a lot of land there. Same thing for Alabama too, and that's why we would like. Yeah. It's very difficult to.
I don't want it to go to Alabama or to Mississippi. I want it to come to Alabama.
We're going to go to South Carolina.
I honestly don't care where it goes. I want it to go somewhere so that it can be proven. It's so easy to understand once you really look at it.
Like Mary Lynn said, the first state that goes to the Alabama Economic Freedom Act, which is our fair tax, which mm-hmm. is all but being the national fair tax with the exception of Social Security. We don't have Social Security. The thing that's going to happen is what's happening now with Trump and his tariffs. You see all kind of companies moving their stuff back to the U.S. Just think of if you got zero corporate tax, where everybody's going to move. And if your state has zero corporate tax, they're going to be moving to Alabama.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the tariffs just for a few minutes, because all I'm hearing on the liberal news media is orange man bad. He's, so let's talk about the tariffs. In the long run, we're gonna have some hurdles to jump, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But over the long run, let's say a year from now, what do you think that will do for the United States? And for
it's interesting.
We'll be better off.
We'll have to see what happens. But it's interesting what is currently happening, and that is unemployment is down, and the number of jobs.
Stock market is up.
We're not hearing that, though.
No, you're not, because it's good news.
No, they were expecting, I think, 147,000 jobs. 137 jobs to be produced. It turned out to be 77. So, it's exceeding expectations. So
here's the reason why the tariffs are going to work. China had problems before Trump started the tariffs, and so he laid the tariffs on them. And before that, construction companies had stopped building buildings in China because they didn't have any money to pay them with. The economy's so bad. And then along comes the tariffs, and guess what? Nothing's being shipped out of China that's bothered by those tariffs. So that's making the problem even worse. And so more and more people are losing their jobs, and they're rioting in the streets. They're trying to get their money out of banks, and none of that's happening. And then the tariffs come along, and there they stand with, oh, gee, where are we going to ship all this stuff? And Christmas is coming up too. Trump is killing Christmas because 90% of the toys that are bought in the U.S. for Christmas are made in China. Trump, he's killing Christmas. No, he's not. He's making it fair for the price of those toys to be fair in a long time when they ship from China. It's all gelling together. But there's one more leg to that. Trump came out a couple of days ago and said, all of you guys out there that buy oil from Iran, you can't do any business with the United States. And so people look at, look what that crazy guy is doing. And if you look and you find out, most of the oil purchased from Iran goes to China. So he hit them 3 times. Mm-hmm. Economy hit them in tariffs.
It's a very wise game of chess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That Trump, he's so stupid. I don't know why we voted him into office.
Yeah,
he's the smartest president we've ever had, is what he is.
What's happening in China is really gruesome.
Yeah,
There are people who worked in the factories. The factories closed, and the people who worked there did not get paid. They're living, their money, they didn't have 401ks. What they did was invest in real estate. But the real estate boom crashed. And so, there's no money. People are starving there. And, they're actually rioting in the streets. And that is a death sentence for people who are caught. So it's, they have to be really, really desperate to go out in the streets and riot against.
Well, let me mention to you something that I know happened. I can't release the name of the person. But the person this is in Japan. Okay. So she said on television, YouTube or whatever, you always see the beautiful parts to Japan. It's just beautiful. It's like a paradise on earth. You see the cherry blossoms. Apparently they bloom year round, and she was making a joke at that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's all they're going to show is the beautiful, beautiful part of Japan. She said, it's not that way. She said, now right there where all the wealth is, that's where you're seeing that. Okay. And it's manufactured pictures and that kind of thing. But the troubling thing is this. So it's the company that she works for, and she goes there a lot. But she was going outside into what we would say, not the city limits of Japan. Mm-hmm. I'm using American terms so everybody can understand. But once you get outside of the city limits of Japan, she said, it's like huge green screens. And they tell you not to take pictures above that green screen. Okay, you can only take pictures within that green screen, and it's all manufactured photos behind and they spend a lot of money to do this, by the way, and probably some of our American money. But anyway, behind the green screens and above the green screens, you can see what it really looks like. It's devastation. It's poverty.
Mm-hmm. They have ghost cities in Japan, and the same thing is happening in China. Japan. About 30 years ago, started children. There were no children. In fact, to this day, I think that I read somewhere. Now, this sounds fantastic. I can't even imagine that it's true. But for 3 months, there were no children born in Japan. And for every one child that is born, 6 people die. So they're losing their population. Mm-hmm. Same thing is happening in China. And actually, it may even be worse in China, because COVID really hit them a lot harder than it hit the United States. And with their lockdowns, they killed people that didn't have COVID. They welded them into their apartments and starved them to death. Mm-hmm. So China is really, it's in a desperate state.
Since everybody supposedly owned property in China when they put these buildings up, and they stopped construction. Well, a lot of people I guess they had 576 China Lane or whatever as an address for their property. And these people they've gone there and moved in. There's no water, electricity, anything. So they're having to hand carry the water in. And I guess if they probably don't have any electricity. So that's how they're living.
I also read that the one way that they were trying to improve the economy of China was this building boom that they had over the last 20 or 30 years. Yeah. And it worked until it didn't. And at some point, they had 3 billion homes for 1 billion people. And they've even taken some of these places and demolished them, these huge ghost cities. They're just...
they're all blight.
Well, they're not finished, and the people who work in the cities, they aren't. I don't think they're convenient to where they work. There are places for people to live, and hopefully develop an area, but the area did not get developed. So it's a desperate thing over there. It is not. If you're a very rich person in China, you're probably doing okay, but for the most part, the villages are empty, and there are pictures on television of the malls and the downtown streets. They're just empty. There's nothing there.
Well, this person I know said that she said it's almost like a deserted movie set.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the scuttlebutt is that China has already, they on specific items they've reduced the tariff down so that that they can get American goods shipped in. But I don't know if the ships are going that way. But the ships have stopped coming from from China, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But they figure within the next few days that they'll be talking to us about fixing those tariffs.
Yeah, saving face is so important, and that's something that
you got to work with them with dignity. You got to treat them with dignity.
Yeah. I know in Japan, you can move into Japan and they will give you a house for $1 or for whatever the equivalent of $1, but you have to fix it up. If you're interested in going to Japan,
I'm here to Abbeville, South.
Italy's the same way.
Yeah, Italy would probably be a more promising place to go to.
Yeah, if I had to choose, it'd be Italy.
Yeah. So the depopulation thing. I mean, the Malthusians have really succeeded in what they were doing.
Okay, does anything about that make any sense? I mean, I remember a kid growing up. Okay, and they were teaching it population explosion and all this kind of stuff. That running out of land, you're running out of blah blah blah. Well, yeah, they are in New York, of course, New York City, but you can even get on the outskirts of the state of New York, and it's as rural as it is here in Alabama.
Yes.
The whole thing is an argument.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and then we would be coming to going from Oxford, Alabama, to my grandparents' house in Geraldine, Alabama, and I was a kid, and I would be thinking, it doesn't look like a population explosion to me. I mean, so much that area is rural.
Well, get on an airplane.
Actually, population is going down worldwide.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The only thing that's keeping the United States, the United States is on the edge. We aren't currently repopulating ourselves, but a lot of it has to do with immigration. Yeah,
illegal.
Not necessarily illegal. I mean, there's something wrong with immigration. The problem is
I'm not saying. I'm saying the majority of the immigration is illegal.
Okay, but
look at it, 20 million, 30 million over the last
I'm not arguing
10 or 12 years.
Years. But what they have done is it's devastating to this country. So I don't know.
It is. I mean, I know I'm really in this neck of the woods right here. You just don't hear all the stuff that we kept hearing in Albertville, Alabama. And so they even had an event where the Haitians have their flag. And so here's my argument about all that. Okay, if you like Haiti so much, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be so glad that I was getting $5,000 to $10,000 or whatever a month, for just moving here and having my clothes washed for me and all this kind of. I'd be so glad that I'd be touting the American flag. I would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
No, the problem is Milton Friedman made it very, very succinct. He said you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state, but you can't have both. Nope. And what they've done is they have incentivized. Yeah,
they proved that back when I think Reagan was the governor of California, and he decided, well, we're going to make schools free. And you saw what happened. College is free. You see what happened out there.
That wasn't Reagan. That happened long before Reagan.
Well, I think he was part of it.
And that's part of the reason why California is in such bad shape.
It was the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
But there needs to be okay. I'm one of those, when I come up with an idea, I want to go for it, But I've worked it out in my head. I've thought about, okay, let's see. If I do this right now, it may benefit me now. Is it going to benefit me in 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
You got to think ahead on some of the decisions that you make. And these people are not thinking. They're only thinking about, it's almost like a bunch of narcissists where they're only thinking of me now. I'm me now, whatever. They're not thinking about what could happen if I make this decision right now. I can't see anything but good coming out of fair tax. I mean, it would be a little hurdle for you to jump, but I'm just telling you, I think it'd be worth the hurdle.
It's absolutely embracing freedom is what it is. You determine yourself when you pay taxes, and that's really the thrust of it. You still pay the taxes, but you determine when you pay them, and you don't pay them. You don't scrimp on the necessities of life because those are covered, are not taxed.
Let's go through some of the questions that have been asked.
Okay.
And so I drew a name. The magic name is Barbara Priest, and so she wins the book. And that's another thing. You need to send questions, and so that we can put your name in a hat. And I keep your name in the hat, by the way. So if you don't win this time, you might win next time. Mm-hmm. So go on ahead and send the questions, and you can send as many questions as you want to. I'll take them. You'll just increase your chances of getting the book, and it's the must read. You must read this book. And can you find this book on Amazon or?
Barely.
You can. They're only used. There are no new books. They quit printing them about 20 years ago. But they are available. You just have to look. And it's not just Amazon. There are other used bookstores that you can
probably thriftbooks.com.
Yeah,
look that up. Thriftbooks.com is a good place to buy books.
Yeah. So they are available. It's just that you have to look for them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Get out there and look for them. How about going to a meeting? How about requesting a meeting in your town? That might be a good way to find out more information too.
Well, we're open to it, yeah, and we love it when you send in questions too, because that tells us what you need to know, because we are so involved in it that we
just know all there is to know about it.
Yeah, we have things that are our favorites. That for me, the freedom is the big thing. That you don't have to keep receipts. You pay the tax. You're done. It doesn't follow you for years and years. When
we passed the fair tax, we kicked back to 250 years ago and found in the country because we'll be free now, then as we are now. Mm-hmm. Or now as we were then.
After the revolution.
And that's what we need. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question, and this is from Barbara Priest, and she wanted you to explain consumption tax. What is consumption tax?
Okay, a consumption tax with the fair tax, you pay taxes only on new goods and services. And once something is taxed, it's not ever taxed again. So if you buy anything used, if you go to a thrift shop or something like that, you don't have to pay a tax.
Consumption tax would be the tax you pay when you consume a new product, whether you eat it up or you have a car or whatever. Mm-hmm. You consume it as far as the tax system is concerned.
But the sales taxes are taxed on after all the other taxes are added in. They have embedded taxes because you're paying the taxes of everyone, every entity that is involved in building whatever it is that you bought. So if you buy bread, you're paying the taxes of the farmer, the baker, the
transportation, everybody's touching.
Yeah. So all of that tax is included in the cost of the item. With the consumption tax or with the fair tax, it's only, you pay the tax only on new goods and services. There's no business to business tax.
The dirty little secret is we pay all those taxes now anyway. But you pay the sales tax, like Mary Lynn said, you pay it on top. You take everything that's taxed in the price of that good, and you take a percentage of that that's already been taxed, and you pay another tax on it. So you get rid of all that garbage, and you pay consumption tax. It's revenue neutral what you're paying now, and so it's just a much better way to collect taxes. If you'd
like to see a pictorial of it, we have a chart on our website, alfairtax.org, and it's called the hammer chart. And it shows the cost of building a hammer and all the taxes that are incorporated in that tax, the embedded taxes, and then buying the hammer with the fair tax. And essentially, the taxes are the same, but you pay them only. Well, actually, it depends. With the embedded taxes, you have things like leather goods. I have a 16% embedded tax. Cars, anything that has a lot of manufacturing involved in it, building houses and so on, it's about 28%. So, and this is at the federal level. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is just wrapping all those up into one and coming up with a 23% tax rather than a 28 or.
And that's revenue neutral, all that stuff that they
brings in the same amount of money as what the current tax system does. Actually, it brings in a little more.
Yeah, it usually brings in more because when they came up with the fair tax, there were a couple of areas that were real hard to verify or calculate. So they are, when you remove that stuff out of the tax system, well, then the fair tax is going to collect just a little more money. It's not a bunch.
And actually, to be honest, with the fair tax, you can actually determine how much you pay in taxes.
Right.
With the income tax and so on. I don't think there's a man alive who could figure out how much they're paying in taxes, because you have all the embedded taxes of everything that you buy, and then you pay your income tax, and you pay FICA and so on. And you may get a ballpark number, but you're never going to know exactly what it is. With the fair tax, you can actually calculate what you're paying in taxes. Because
that would be awesome, because I'm telling you, I don't know that I want to know what percentage we're paying in taxes.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be scary.
I think that might be a need to know basis, and I don't need to know.
Well, you'd wonder how you manage to pay for things if you
the other thing is too that with the fair tax, you oh shoot,
I'm going to talk about Social Security, Mary Lynn?
No, well, actually, yeah, Social Security is important too, because Social Security is collected with the fair tax, and
it's not an add-on or anything. It's part of the fair
I know
tax.
what I was going to say. The cost of collecting taxes is a huge number.
Yeah.
With the income tax, you've got 87,000 people working for the IRS. You've got all the other stuff involved. With the fair tax, the tax is collected at the state level. It's collected the same way that the sales tax is currently collected. And actually, now here in Huntsville, the fair tax, the state fair tax, would be less than what we're currently paying in sales tax, and to be added to that for another penny, which would be about 8%, a little less than 8% in Huntsville, we could actually pay our property taxes too. So we would not have to come up with a large sum. Well, if you have a mortgage, you're paying your property taxes every month. With the people who own their homes, you're coming up with a big amount of money. You were saying your son-in-law or your son pays $4,000 a year in
almost
taxes. So
townhouse, no land.
Yeah.
Basically no land.
Right. So, I mean, there's so many good things about the fair tax and that's why the questions that we get from out there are important to us, because these are the things that are important to us.
When we come back, we're going to have to go into a commercial break, but when we come back, the prebate is a big deal. And there's one, it's a tale of two sisters. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Okay. We'll be right back in just a minute, everybody.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. 20 years it's been happening here. So I wanted to thank Tom, who owned the television station way back in Jacksonville, Alabama, for making this whole thing happen. And he stayed on me. And I said, Tom, I'll forget my name. And he said, no, you won't forget your name. He said, you'll be a natural. You'll just jump right into it and you'll do it. But what's so funny is literally I can remember things while I'm on the air, but as soon as I get off the air, I'm like, what did I have for breakfast this morning? So I do kind of wake up for the show, but I definitely appreciate everything you guys have done and all of our sponsors throughout the years. And all of you sponsors who stayed with us as we moved from Alabama to South Carolina. I can't believe it. But thank you so much for staying with us. Absolutely. I've got Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with me right now. They're with Fair Tax, Alabama Fair Tax. And you guys are sending in emails, and we definitely appreciate that. Donna@donnasedge.com. That's Donna@donnasedge.com. So we have two sisters. One sister sent the email, and it was about both their spouses have passed away. They still have kids at home. Wanted to know if they qualify for the prebate.
Absolutely. They would, whenever the person that's passed away, you would refile your request for prebate, and you put yourself in as a head of household. You know, you have to prove that you're the rightful new owner and all that, but the wife would be the head of household, and then whoever's dependents for her would go under her instead of her husband.
Right, and that includes elderly parents, or so if you have
if they are a dependent
right.
of the head of household, they are counted in that number.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So like Phil and I moved my mother with us right here. So mother would be considered a dependent.
Yeah, because
right.
She's 100% dependent on you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Thus the word dependent.
I'm glad you used that word. So yeah, I mean, I can see it benefiting a lot of people. And then another one, she laughed. Her name is Stephanie. She said, "I'm not the 20 kids." Some TV show that comes on, 20 kids in county or something. She said, "We're not that." So, but we do have a lot of kids. Would there be enough of that? Is there a limit on kids?
No. Actually,
this is a family-friendly deal here we're talking about.
Yeah. To that point, President Trump is talking about giving $5,000 to people who have a new baby. So we need children.
Just a little younger, Phil.
Yeah, we need children.
We do.
We really do, and it's it's one of the greatest joys in life. Having a child and having a child. We're finding now as we're getting older, our younger daughter really takes care of us. I mean, she really doesn't have to, but she has assumed roles that I never expected, that we would ever need. And so it's wonderful, and to have a child all through your life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially during the teenage years.
Yeah.
The teenage years. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's when the alien inhabits the children.
Yeah.
But they do come around. I remember
they do.
I was taking Brad to school, and Brad said, "Mom, you can let me off here." And I said, "Son, that's 2 blocks from the school. It's raining outside." He says, "Okay, I'll walk." And then just magically, a few months later, one day, he just said, "What are you doing, Mom?" And I said, "I'm stopping here. You're too embarrassed to be seen with me, letting you out of the car like that." And he said, "No, you can take me up to the school." And then he hugged me and he kissed me, and I said, "What have you done?"
Yeah, that's when the alien took off. It's so amazing. You can take that day. You can pinpoint when that day happened too.
Yeah, he's up to something. He's done something. So let's talk a little bit about, and someone asked about the Pope, and they had heard you say you guys were Catholic. What are your thoughts about the new one coming in? Are there any thoughts? Is there anybody pretty close to taking the place?
Well, it's going to depend on the College of Cardinals. They are the ones that get to do the picking. So there's several front runners, but nobody really knows what's in the mind of those Cardinals. So we'll just take whatever they get. We'll take whatever they get because God is telling them to do whatever they're doing. So.
Yeah, Chuck just said, I hope we get a Catholic Pope.
Yeah, yesterday at Mass, I said, Mary Lynn, pray for a Catholic Pope.
We'll send you a Southern Baptist one over. How about that? No, really, the Pope kind of turns the direction sometimes, for the United States.
It's an interesting thing. Pope Francis to us was a real disappointment. And, that he's dead. I'm not going to say anything else, but it really did. We had some bad years. And I think what you have to do is understand that, Jesus said, I am the vine and you are the branches. And some of those branches just aren't good. Some of them die off. But the church is steady and strong. And what we have to do is just accept the fact that we are all human. And, we have human popes too.
Well, sometimes though, because there was one, I don't remember what his name was. They were talking about he was a contender. He's extremely liberal, and he believes in same-sex marriage and abortion. And it just seems like that's so against the teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand. You would think that a priest or especially a pope, would have some understanding of what it is that they're, I truly don't understand, but God doesn't ask us to understand. He asks us to believe. And
starting in the 60s, but before that, progressives have been trying to take over the church because they want to make it, they want to make the church. So everybody loves the church, but that's not what the church is here for. The church is here for us to have a mechanism to save our souls through believing and practicing what Jesus Christ asked us to do. And so that the church at the upper level has kind of veered away from that, and the people that are going to save it will be laity like Mary Lynn and I, or the good strong priests that we have out there, and there's some bishops that are strong. Bishop. There's a Bishop Athanasius Schneider in Lithuania, somewhere like that. He has been promulgating the catechism. They had a program where they started from the first catechism that was written by the church, and every time it was updated through the years. And there are 18 volumes. No, there are 20 volumes of the differences from the first catechism to the last catechism, but they're all based on the teachings of Christ. It's not, we haven't gone off the edge anywhere, but the guys that run the show now don't know about them because they seem to be moving towards progressive ideas, like you can bless homosexual couples and stuff like that. And
you can bless homosexual couples. That's not my point.
You bless the person separately.
That's what I'm saying. You can
together.
Okay, that's fine. I think that you can have God's blessing is on all of us. It's not just but you can still condemn the lifestyle, and that's unfortunately.
But now, to be clear, if two of them come up and say, bless us, you say, you come with me, you go over in a corner somewhere and you can bless that guy and you can go and bless the other guy, because if you bless them together, that says, okay, I agree with what you're doing. And
the union itself, marriage has a definition, just like a woman.
Right.
Just like the woman has a definition. It's not something that it's arbitrary. It is not something that you can just change at will. It's not fluid. And
all I'm pointing out is that when the Pope wrote his letter, which was he has to write an encyclical that he signs and sends to all the hierarchy for it to be firm, but the paper that he wrote wasn't binding, and so it just left a lot of things in turmoil when he wrote these different papers. And I watched this one priest. They were talking about the years of Pope Francis, and he said they got to a point to where they said, oh no, he's going on an airplane. Oh no, he's going on an airplane. Every time he went on an airplane, he'd spurt out something that would make the national news, and all of a sudden the Pope is a greenie. He wants everybody to go for climate change, So
well, some of that stuff too, I think, I really have to give him the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of times the media will take something and manipulate it,
run with it.
Different.
Oh, we said it happened with Trump all the time.
He needed to be smarter than that, saying something that they could turn around.
Okay, well.
Sometimes, like I have a sister, I could say, I'm giving you $1 million. I promise you, she would say something like, you gave it to me in the wrong hand. I promise you, there are some people who are like that. And the media is that way, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a bad thing. Yeah. But I'm just saying that, like, someone posed a question to me one time, and it was during the time when the bakery didn't want to bake a cake for a gay or a lesbian couple. I don't remember what it was. And so somebody asked me at church, they said, what would you do if a gay couple came in? And I said, nothing. Well, they took it that meant I agreed with it. Mm-hmm. And I said, why are you looking at me that way? And they said, well, you agree with that lifestyle. And I said, no, I don't. Church is meant for the sinners to come to. Mm-hmm. And
look who Jesus spent most of his time with. What about Mary Magdalene?
No, really? I mean, really? I mean, you have to think about it that way. But and
the key to that was
way though, you're not showing a whole lot of love. I don't think. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, well, because as far as the way I understand it, I could tell a little white lie, and it's as bad as somebody killing somebody. I mean, a sin is a sin. So
think about what Mary Magdalene was, and then after that meat, 180 degrees. Yeah. So it's you can't. I have no right to tell somebody they can't come in my church.
I don't know. I'm not going to. I won't ever do it. Now, I don't think they need to be up running things.
No, I don't think they need to be, smooching in the church and all that kind of stuff. But
I was thinking the parable of the prodigal son. Jesus is the good shepherd, loves all. He would sacrifice himself for his lambs. He did that, and so I can't condemn people for what they are. I can condemn them for what they do, and or not. Condemnation is a little strong, but I can disagree with what they do. But their reason for doing things is something that I can't. I have no control.
Well, kids with their gender, being confused with their gender. Well, they're teaching this in school, and the kids are doing what's a popular thing right now. And apparently the popular thing is being confused about your gender. But there are so many kids who are coming out now. They're older, and they're talking about how they had the surgery and they wish they had never had it done, because what they're teaching them is if you're a girl and you want to be a boy, or if you're a boy, you want to be a girl, you're going to have those sexual urges just like the opposite sex that you are right now. That doesn't work that way, because they don't want that word to get out.
Right.
But it doesn't. That's not the way it happens. They wind up with this emptiness in their head. I mean, it's just they're empty.
Well, there's a lot of money involved. I mean, you consider
all of the money. Yeah,
that's when Joe Biden made allowed homosexuals into the trans people into the military. They could have free surgeries and have their their drugs produced for them and so on, and that was an incentive for them to join the military. It wasn't it wasn't because they were war fighters. It was because they could get free stuff, and it's something that evil is out there, and it affects all of us. And if you're not affected by that, then God bless you. I mean, that is something that is.
And you know what's really evil? The income tax.
I think so too, because okay, think about this. Okay, so we had our taxes done. Of course, we had to pay in. which means we made some money this year. Okay. So we did have to pay some in. Well, the person who did our taxes, I wanted a conservative person to do my taxes. And a lot of people, well, why does it matter whether somebody's a liberal or a conservative? To me, it makes a lot of difference. If you're a liberal, you're going to be for the government taking as much out of my money as you possibly can. If you're conservative, you're going to be on my side. You're going to be like, well, Donna, let's take, and she did. We found the most wonderful person to do our taxes. And so she was just fabulous. And she was sitting, and I said, you got to be a conservative. And she said, well, I've seen your show. We're a match. so I said, I'm so glad I found you. As a matter of fact, on the Facebook page on Abbeville, South Carolina, I said, I want a conservative person to do my taxes. Who do you recommend? And her name just kept popping up after the other. But anyway, I asked her. You remember I'd asked Rhonda Bonds and Boaz. I said, you got to hate the idea of fair tax. That put you out of work, wasn't it? And so I thought, I think I know what this girl's going to say. I said, but I went on ahead and asked anyway. I said, so you're a conservative and I'm a conservative. And I said, have you ever heard of fair tax? She said, I love fair tax. And I said, but you'd be out of work, wouldn't you? And she said, are you kidding me, girlfriend? She said, I'd actually be able to help people. I wouldn't have to look at them and say, you got to pay like thousands of dollars in the taxes. Right. Of course, we had to pay some in. And so what was so funny, she thought she had set it up somehow. Something didn't happen with my bank. We were just going to go ahead and just pay it and be done with it because I didn't want to think about it anymore. I was already irritated with having to pay some in. And so we get a letter from the IRS last week, and my heart's going, ugh. Are they saying we owe more than that? Well, I opened it up. It's just that we needed to call them, and they need to be able to take that money out. So it wasn't as heartbreaking as I thought it was going to be. But anything coming from the IRS makes your heart just like
it's a weapon. It's a government weapon. It absolutely is, and that's the point, that you have to fear it. It's just like in China, for instance.
How it was designed.
Exactly. You don't speak out for fear of the government. We don't. We do things. So we arrange our lives according to the government's stipulations, and that's unfortunate, and it's actually wrong. In so many ways.
Well, I had two different granddads, two different personalities. One was a Democrat, one's a Republican. Well, one of my grandfathers, and I won't say which one it was. I think he had a bad attitude about this. He would say, "No, Donna, don't rock the boat." In other words, don't say anything. Don't rock the boat because the government can come back and get you.
Right.
I mean, he would say that, and I think, well, nobody wants to rock the boat, and that's why we're in the shape we're in. Nobody wants to rock the boat.
Yeah. That's the reason why it's hard to get people to say, "Yeah, I think this is a good idea. We ought to do it."
Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm like, you're so stupid if you don't think this is a good idea. I mean, I have that attitude about fair tax. You ever think you'd hear a talk show host say that? I'm like, what's not to get?
It's easy.
Yeah, it is something that the deep state does not like it.
Oh, no.
To be honest, with Trump, I actually hope his tariff idea works.
Okay, this is another question. Okay, you just reminded me of this one. Okay, who did that? Okay, Bill. Okay, so Bill wants to know what's the difference between the tariffs, basically what Trump's doing right now. Is it not almost the same thing as fair tax?
No.
The tariff is a way for us to keep the playing field level between us and a given country on the goods that we swap back and forth.
Well, it incentivizes us buying American goods because there are no tariffs on American goods.
Now, if this other country is really good at making this product, and the Americans don't want it to be sucked out of the U.S. of A., they'll put a higher tariff on it. So,
okay, all right, let me give you my rendition on that. Maybe this is the redneck rendition, but this is the way I'm looking at that. Okay, I would much rather have our good products and services. Yeah. I would rather have those than some cheap something made in another country where they work them, and all your big name companies are using these little sweatshops to make their products, and these people are paying absolutely nothing anyway. They're paying them nothing. It's like a sweatshop. Who is some big designer, I forgot who it was, and his shoes or something were being made in these little sweatshops. Yeah. But now he charges a whole lot of money for those shoes. I think
I think you maybe talk. I think you maybe it wasn't shoes. It was Hermes makes the bags, and they tout themselves as making them in France by hand. But it turns out that they were making them in China, and they shipped them to France. And in France they do the, put the label on and do things like that. But
so why not have just a fake bag? I mean, why am I? I mean,
well, you're not. I don't know the mechanics of that. I've never.
Well, I can touch and I can feel leather whether it's good or not. If it doesn't have a label on it, I might buy that one.
Mm-hmm.
I go for the workmanship of it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I love to find somebody in America who sells leather. They have leather. They're in a little shop somewhere. Maybe they've been working out of their home. I'm that person, by the way. I make leather good. But anyway, I know I make mine good and it's good quality. I make billfolds. I've got Phil's billfold somewhere around here. He's probably got it on him right now. But anyway, I made his billfold. That thing has lasted for years. It's leather.
Mm-hmm.
And I use good quality leather.
Leather wears.
Yeah.
Real leather.
Yeah. Our daughter, when she was in middle school, excuse me, was in the label phase of her life where everything had to have a label on it. That was the label. And it was a difficult time to get through. Fortunately, she outgrew it. But I see a lot of people who live by their labels. They wear them on themselves all the time. And I think that must be really sad because you're not necessarily getting a good product, but you're getting a name that you can flash.
Well, why am I going to pay $500 for a pair of sunglasses that I'm either going to sit on, and I would, and destroy them, or I'm going to lose them? I mean, those things, to me, it just doesn't make sense. But then I'm conservative. I mean,
Well, I have to say that when I was on a tennis team, I did spend a lot of money for a pair of sunglasses, but they were really good. And when I could, they were
they may be good, but I'm going to lose them and I'm going to sit on them.
Well, they helped me play. I could see the ball better with those sunglasses. So that was worth it to me, but it wasn't because I don't remember what the name of them, what their label was.
Ray-Ban.
No, I don't know, but that wasn't important to me. What was important was I could really see that ball.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, when I was with GTE, I won trips, I won camcorder, I won all kinds of stuff. I won some Ray-Bans. Guess what I did? I sat on them and I destroyed them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were sitting in my seat. Yeah. Well, I won them, so I couldn't go get another pair. I mean, so I'm like Dollar Tree. Yeah. $1, well, $1.25 now.
Yeah. Well, if something handmade is worth the money, if it's something that you want, and you're willing to pay more for it. It's just like organic food. I mean, you can go to the grocery store and buy all kinds of groceries, or you can buy organic and pay a little more. It's a choice.
Well, you can pay now or later.
Yeah.
Buy the organic, pay now or later in the hospital.
That's the whole thing with tariffs too, is that you're setting it up so that more companies will do their manufacturing in the U.S. than trying to take it off.
Isn't that the ultimate goal?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be, as Americans, that should be the ultimate goal anyway?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it where we actually have free trade across the world, where people actually, you buy from one country because they make really good something. And, and it's not, but I'll tell you another thing too, that really concerned me during COVID was the pharmaceuticals that were made in China. If we ever had a problem, if we ever went to war with China over Taiwan or whatever, that access would not be there. And that would be something that, in fact, we were joking also, not just about pharmaceuticals, but if we ever went to China, we'd still have to buy our ammunition from them. So, it's something, and that's being facetious, but there are things that we buy from China that we can't get anywhere else. And,
well, don't you wonder about a country that actually hates us? Why would you be buying medication from them? Wouldn't that be the ultimate way to kill them?
It worries me, and it worried me. It worried me a lot then because
that's one reason I wouldn't take the jab.
Yeah.
So my brother took every jab they had. okay, and tried to guilt me and Phil about this. We wouldn't take it, but he now regrets it. He stays sick all the time. There's something, and he was a reasonably healthy person before then.
Hey, I learned something. Bromelain, which you find in pineapple, apparently counteracts the COVID, the spike protein. So, I mean,
Eat a lot of pineapple.
Yeah, I eat pineapple. I'm not an authority on this, and that may not be true, but I have heard that from several places. That
Let me tell you something else. Instead of getting facelifts, woman can get a rind, from an orange, okay? And, people that they don't like the thick rinds, that white stuff that's between the fruit and the skin. That's actually pure collagen.
Yeah, I actually like that. I always have, and I've never understood why people don't.
I like it. But anyway, you can get that, and you can dry it and make a powder out of it and put it in your teas. You can do all kinds of stuff. And it's better. Look, you're not being cut on. You're not going to have to.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many things we can do that the medical world doesn't want us to do because it's a moneymaker. You know what I mean?
Well, people, again, it goes back to labels. If you have a cream that is supposed to do something and, it costs $500 for a jar of it, you think it's got to be better than, something you can make yourself. And and oftentimes it's not. So,
and I'm going to have a class about this. Okay. There is a plant. And by the way, I'm best friends with a bunch of preppers. I love preppers. They're the smartest people on earth. So I had a prepper, and he was a little bit first time on the show last week, and he was kind of like this, because I host a show. So he's thinking I'm going to make fun of him because a lot of those people do. The people in the media make fun of him. This is a match made in heaven with this guy. This is what I did. I said, you have to have heard about the comfrey plant. And he said, then he's like, you know your stuff. And I said, oh, you better believe I do. I said, I was outside pruning a tree, should have had gloves on, did not have the gloves on, had the saw out there. And I had this great big, you can almost see it right here. I got the bloom of a comfrey plant and just put it right there and put a Band-Aid on it. You could see skin. You could see layers of skin where I had really put a big blister on that. But it healed it. And what did that cost me? A seed. Because I got a seed and I planted it in the ground. Look it up, COMFREY.
Well, that's good. The root actually is good for respiratory ailments and things like that too. So, there's so many medicinal plants that we have that we've just forgotten
Ginger
about.
root. Okay, you remember? So I have asthma. There were times I would have to throw us into a commercial break, like several times when we would have shows, between us. I don't have to do that anymore. You know why? Because I take ginger root. The tea. So folks, don't believe every little thing that the government shines out there for you. Right. It may not be true. Follow the money.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Guys, we're going to have to call it a day. Thanks so much for this. Yeah. So thank you so much for being with us. An hour show flies by when Chuck and Mary Lynn with Alabama Fair Tax are with us. How can folks find out more information about Fair Tax?
AlabamaFairtax.org or Fairtax.org for the national scheme.
It's ALFairtax.org.
Yeah, AL.
And on there, you can find Understanding the Alabama Economic Freedom Act, which is our Alabama Fair Tax proposal.
Absolutely. Guys, we got to call it a day. And thank you all so much for watching. Continue sending emails. You're not bothering me at all. Donna@DonnasEdge.com, Donna@DonnasEdge.com. And thank you again so much for watching. And congratulations to Barbara Priest. You won the book. So we'll be seeing you guys later. Bye-bye.